Everybody, Meg Ruler 31 back here for FSIDFS. Hopefully everybody did well in the Daytona duels yesterday. I know I did put about $186 down, cleared almost 700, so it was very good. Just a reminder, if you want to sign up for FSI DFS NASCAR package, over on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see there's a free promo code. If you go to our website, FSIDFS.com, go to the subscribe area for NASCAR, you can put in free NASCAR as a code. You use it twice in the month of February until the 27th, and it'll give you a free week of NASCAR coverage. So with the truck race coming up, Xfinity, 500, and then after that, Auto Club, other races, we have you covered. So today, I just want to go over some truck stuff. We don't have the starting orders. Qualifying will happen right before. So, I mean, that's kind of a bummer. So what I did is I'm going to look at average finishes, average starts, Daytona, a little bit of practice speed, and just kind of run through. So as you look at the sheet here, don't like start taking notes and, where's the start over there? That's just their average starting position. If you look into the plays, red, cash, and prime and fade, the primes are using my cores. Those are not the core guys. I'm just using those as notes for myself as I do this video to remember what to kind of tell you about the play. So I'm going to run down them by teams quickly, just to kind of give you an overview of things. And then we're just going to have to wait for the qualifying data to actually really make some solid decisions. As you look at the color coding on the side, for truck qualifying, 5 guys get in. It is the first 4 guys from owners points last year. 2 of the teams are no longer in existence. So it's going to be 3 of the top 4 and then the 6th one, and then past champion gets in. So right now, Grant Infinger would get in because Ben Rhodes, who won last year, should already be in. Infinger was the 2020 champion. If Infinger is in, I believe Austin Hill won it the year before. So and so on. Bit down there. So the greens are guys that are pretty safe with owners points down to about 24th. The yellow ones are 24th to 27th, and the red ones really probably need to be in the top 27 for speed, or they're going to get bumped if somebody has a bad run on the owner points below them. Okay, so let's go through this pretty fast. Brett Holmes, I think he's going to be a good play. He's had 5 races at Daytona. He has had only a 20% DNF rate, so he's finished 4 out of 5 of them. Average finish is 12th. I know he spun out in practice, but it wasn't his fault. Somebody ran into him. So if the truck looks fine in qualifying, I think he's a good cheap play. Hopefully he's down further in the field for that. So normally in these races, you're going to look for guys in the back because there's 100 laps in this one. And I think it goes 20 stage 1 to 20 stage 2 and then 60 for stage 3. So not a ton of points for like dominators getting out there and leading the race. And just forget what you saw if you watched the duels yesterday. Those cup cars are completely different than these trucks. It might be single file, follow the leader, but you might see more side-by-side racing because, again, these trucks are different aerodynamically and package-wise than those NASCARs. So, like I said, a lot of people will tell you, stack the back, and that's the key to winning Daytona and plate races. But I just want to tell you the story of last year. So TK and I, who's my partner here at FSI, we decided, let's look at some guys at the back. And there was this golden opportunity because there was this dude named James Busher, and he actually had decent speed in practice, and he had a decent qualifying run, but his tire was below the yellow line, so his time got thrown out. So he started dead last, and we thought, wow, you got a pretty fast truck, looked pretty good in qualifying. This guy should move up. He's looks like he's got some decent equipment here, better than some of the other guys in the back. So we're gonna start him. Started dead last, no place to go but up. The first lap of the race, Tanner Gray loses his drivetrain or something, doesn't get going. All the cars accordion. So Derek Kraus and Gus Dean and James Busher, who were all together in a line, just going bam, bam, bam. And Busher got the worst of it. And he was the first truck out of the race. So it kind of ended my DFS night before anything else began. Now there was lots of wrecks in this race, and there's lots in Daytona, usually 5 to 7, sometimes up to 11. a couple of years ago, I think it was like 19. It was like really chaotic. I think there was only like 7 trucks that like finished the race, and it looked like a demolition derby. It's crazy. So I guess the moral of the story here is stacking the back can work sometimes because there's place differential points there, but not necessarily the golden ticket. As we saw last night, also, it wasn't a lot of guys from the back that necessarily won the race. I actually played guys between like, I mean, there are less truck there. There's 40 trucks here, so there's a lot more opportunity for place differential in the cup rates last night when there's only 21. Playing some guys in the high tens and the low teens seem to work out. So I think my strategy for this is I'm going to like maybe find like one guy, maybe 2 guys at most in the top 10 that I think, because still if like the guy wins the race, he gets 45 DK points, which isn't bad. It's just if the guy starts first and he ends up the first guy out, then you have the potential to lose like 40 some DK points. Okay, so going back to the field here, Clay Greenfield, he pretty much just runs Daytona, not an automatic qualifier, not a ringer by any means. I don't even know if he'll make this one. 5 races, only has finished 2 of them. Average finish is 19th, so 6K is a little bit high for playing a punt in the back. So GPP maybe pretty much out on him. Jason Kitzmiller, he's the one that spun out Brent Holmes in the CR7 motorsports truck. He and Blaine Perkins, I think I'm a fade in both of them. Corey Roper owns this team. Corey Roper is actually a top 5 Daytona driver and plate races. So I'm kind of surprised I don't see him personally in the field here. And I know that there was some in-finger ranked some of these trucks last year, and Kitzmiller should get in on ownership, and Perkins potentially should be close enough. But just looking at their track record in these and looking at like some other series and Talladega and stuff, I'm just not really sold on these guys. I think there's better punt options. Dale Gillen Racing here, Haley Deegan comes in for her sophomore season. I was very impressed with her last year. It seems like she really took notes, ran clean races. 6,900 is a good price. And again, pricing sometimes doesn't even matter at Daytona race. Build the lineup that you want to. Of course, you have to fit within the salary cap, but if you're leaving like couple thousand, even like 10, 20,000, if it's the lineup that you want, then go for it. Don't worry about pricing here. But if you are trying to, if some of these studs like really mess up and there's 310K guys that are starting in like the 30s and they're actually going to be lost, you're going to need some lower price people. And I think Deegan is definitely a decent one here. Just looking back at some of her ARCA history, she finished 9th here last year, has had top 5 speed in qualifying. They've got big plans for her. They want her to move up to Xfinity in 23, so she's going to need some top 5, top 10s, and this Dave Gilliland team isn't bad. They're the ones that back the engine for the Greg Biffle car, the New York Racing one that came out. So they make some good quality products. Tanner Gray with hers, little bit risky, really hasn't had he had a decent season last year, but he hasn't done really good at plate races. If he starts in at 20 to 30, maybe I consider him. Riley Herbst is coming from Xfinity, hopping in one of their trucks here, just running Daytona. Ryan Preece and Taylor Gray, Tanner's brother, going to run it the rest of the year. So I think it's going to be a good quality truck, and Herbst he's kind of like a Stenhouse Chastain, a little bit more aggressive than you want. He's been driving the 98. Once Chase Briscoe moved up to Cup, he took over in Xfinity last year, and he had a decent season, but still a little bit maturity more as a driver. But coming down into the truck series, I think, with his experience and everything, I think he's got a good chance to do well here. So again, I'd probably only start him if he started outside the top 10. He's not one of the top 10 drivers that if he starts in the top 10 that I'd look at. If he's down more, then that's fine. Brian Exalt, FNI, Fire Department, New York Racing. Nice tribute. Only finishes half the races here. He's okay. He'd have to make it in by speed if he starts at the back. I don't think he's probably going to finish where he starts. So maybe move up a little attrition. Don't hate him. Don't love him. Zane Smith, Front Row Motorsports. This is also a David Gilliland backed engine. This was Todd Gilliland's truck last year. who made the playoffs and did quite well in it. Zane Smith comes from the mess of GMS Racing, who last year had a 5-truck team, and now they're consolidating down to a 2-truck team, had trouble finding sponsorships. So, but Zane Smith did well despite that. 2 races at Daytona, average finish of 13th. I think if he starts in the top 10 or even below that, I think he's a good option, and he's one that's definitely locked into the field. Next, we have Glory to God Racing. It's a new racing team started by Tim Veens. Tim Veens liked to run selected races and then really hated to have to qualify all the time. So he just figured if he starts a truck team that consistently runs, then he'll have enough ownership points when he wants to run in a race, he can. And these trucks aren't junk by any means. He bought them as used trucks from Kyle Busch Racing, so it should be decent equipment, even if they're seconds. Johnny Saunders will run a Daytona race here. He has had a great history at Daytona, so he's one that I definitely look at if he starts outside the top 10. Somebody I'm pretty high on. And Matt Jaskell also just he's been okay. Again, he's a very cheap guy, and he might not even make the field here because again, they don't have enough owners points. But if he is in and he's into the back, he's somebody I consider just based on how well he has done, and these being former Kyle Busch trucks. Next we come to GMS Racing. The 2 guys that are left here, you have Jack Woods. This is going to be officially he did run some last year, marginal results, but this is actually going to be his rookie year. And you have Grant Enfinger, who is actually a really, really good player. He is a very good driver in plate tracks, and he's one that even if he's starting in the top 10, he's one of the guys that I would consider playing up there. So hopefully, maybe he starts a little bit further on back. He gets finally a full-time ride here. Last year, he was sharing the truck with in Thor Sports with Christian Eckes, and he ran some in the CR7 team. So, but I think, he's definitely found his way here. And again, GMS, I'm hoping that this year, only having 2 trucks and not trying to have 5 trucks and all that, they'll be able to get more sponsorship, be able to take care of their team better so they don't struggle as much. And I'm looking forward to a good year for them. Stuart Friesen, I'm out on here. 5 races at Daytona, and he's only finished 1 of them. I think he's pretty risky. I like him on dirt tracks and stuff, but I'm not a huge fan of him here. Hattori, they pick up some of the guys that left GMS. They didn't have rides anymore. Chase Purdy comes over. He ran the 23 last year. It's the second year in trucks. Not very consistent. Kind of low on him. He wasn't really great in here or in some other series at restrictor place races, so I think he needs a little bit of room to grow there. Tyler Ankrum, he takes over from Austin Hill. This is the truck that won the 2019 500, the 2020 championship, and he had some success. Ankrum is a good driver. I'm glad he's in a better situation here, even though he hasn't finished a race at Daytona. I think he's okay for GPP depending on starting position, but I think there's better options. But I'm really looking forward to what he can do this season. Parker Klingerman, a veteran, comes in. He's had some top 5s, some top 10s at Daytona. His speed was not great in practice, so I don't know if he starts further on the back. That's usually what ends up happening with him, but then he can usually move up pretty fast. He's better at like road courses and some other ones, blowing through the field. I don't know necessarily at Daytona. So at GPP is okay. He's not on my concern list, I don't think. Timmy Hill, I'm not really interested in. The truck should make it based on owners' points last year, but they were 40th in speed. He really hasn't had a great track record when it comes to plate races. Jennifer Jo Cobb, I don't know. If she makes the field, she's one that's always really cheap, and through attrition. Like she's not going to be a state of the lead draft. She's going to be floating around. She's going to be like one of those trucks that you just see kind of out there and lines of trucks just blowing by her, but she usually stays out of trouble and usually finishes the race unless she gets caught up in something silly. So definitely a good risk reward there in a GPP. Jordan Anderson, pretty good on him. I think he's a good cash play. Does have to do some work to get in here, but 5 races, 2 top 5s, 3 top 10s. Pretty good finishing here. This truck was a lot better before they started the Xfinity team and kind of spread out the resources. He's been working on his Jordan Anderson Xfinity team, but usually the truck's better when Jordan Anderson not driving it in Xfinity and in trucks. But it has shown some speed, which speed isn't necessarily something that you need here. You need to be able to kind of fit in the draft and stay out of trouble. Kyle Busch Motorsports here. Chandler Smith, Corey Heim, and John Hunter Nemechek. Nemechek should have won the title last year, just had some bad luck towards the end. He should definitely be in. Chandler Smith, only like 1 race here, but he was been decent in other series. So it'd be between Chandler and Nemechek if I picked one. I'm probably going to go with Empfinger as my top 10 guy, but if these guys fall out of the top 10, then definitely going to take a look at them because I think they can definitely get up there and contend for the top 10. Stay clean, run a good race. It's a good program. It's similar to the Gibbs program that Kyle Busch runs for in Cup. And the one thing that should be quite interesting here, and I should touch on this maybe a little bit earlier, is that what's going to happen with the whole qualifying thing and then going right to the race, because they're not going to have a chance to change their setup. So usually, like if qualifying is on the day before and then you get some practice and then get to go to racing, you can change your setup back to a racing setups for like a long run, not set up for like short runs and short bursts of speed. So are some of these teams going to set up for the short run to get in? And maybe it's some of the smaller teams that are going to like blow our socks away in qualifying and qualify way high. But then when the actual race, they're not going to have a speed because they're not going to be able to change like the full setup. I mean, they can do some adjustments with like wedge and things like that and tire pressure and to try to make the truck better on the track and for setup for a long run. But like overall setup, there's some other things that they really can't do during the course of a race. So are these Kyle Busch trucks going to set up for the long run? Like kind of like it looked like the Joe Gibbs ones did. They really didn't care about speed in qualifying. They just knew that, they were all going to get in, but they wanted to be ready for to run the Twin 500s and get a better position that way. I don't know. It would be interesting to see, but I think Corey Heim kind of is the one that concerns me here a little bit. I think he'd be more of a GPP because he's a rookie here. Did okay, ran 1 race and actually won it in ARCA. That's where you see like he had the 1 track win at Daytona, but it's not in truck and it's not against this competition. McNeely Hillman Racing was a collaboration between 2 teams, Derek Kraus and Colby Howard. I think they're both decent GPP options if they start towards the back of the field. I think I like Kraus a little bit better, but pricing's a little bit high if some of these 10K guys end up like in the back of the field and they're definitely solid cash plays, then I think I'd look at other plays over them. Then you come to Nice. Nice has 5 trucks trying to get in here. 3 of them should be in: Hocevar, Austin Wayne Self, Dean Thompson, who's a rookie this year. Carson Hocevar was a rookie last year, had a decent season. Could probably stay up into the, he made the top 8 last year. Probably could run in the top 10 once to carry over his success. Finished 5th in his 1 Daytona race. Austin Wayne Self is guy TK and I love the play, especially if he starts below 20th. He usually finish where he starts or advances a little bit. He's decent. Got into a little bit of a beef with John Hunter Nemechek and got turned into the wall late last season, but other than that, he usually stays out of trouble. Dean Thomas, like I said, he's a rookie, but he's done really, really well in ARCA and plate racing. So like the price, if he starts down there in this equipment, he should be able to do well. The only thing concerns me is that he's really in on owner's points. So he shouldn't start like far in the back in like the 30s. But I think he's a solid play. Chris Wright and Lawless Allen. Allen, I'm not a fan of. I just doesn't really have a good history, and I think he's got a lot to learn. But Chris Wright, I'm okay with. I think he's done decent in finishing and plate races, and if he makes the field, I think if this fourth Nice truck holds up, they've had some tech issues over the years. I think it's okay. Tate Fogelman on point racing, absolutely not. 2 races here, really hasn't done well. Plate racing overall really hasn't done well. His the speed for the truck in practice really didn't look good. Not going to be playing him. Matt DiBenedetto, absolutely love him, and he's another one that I consider playing, probably between him and Empfinger. Was in Cup last year, was in the Wood Brothers car. His contract was up and they didn't renew it. Couldn't find a Cup ride because there was like a lot of reorganization and stuff with the new car and new teams forming and things like that. So he was kind of playing musical chairs and just couldn't get into a chair fast enough before the music ended. But I think he's a really decent driver, and I think that he's going to be challenging John Hunter Nemechek for the truck title this year, just simply because he's very talented. He just couldn't get a break to get the win in the Cup Series, but he was consistent, and I think he's going to come down here, and I think he's going to do really well. He's not a case of some of the other guys that came up like Damon Hemrick and David Reagan and some of the other guys that lost their rides and needed to move back down to get a little bit more seasoning before they move back up to the Cup Series. I think that he's definitely a Cup Series driver, and I'm excited that he got a decent ride with this Rackley truck. They cycled through a bunch of people last year, but I think, having him, this could really take this program to the next level. They ran a second truck a couple times last year. I think William Bryan ran it, almost won the race, but he had some tech issues towards the end. So really looking forward to this Rackley Warhouse truck, seeing what they can do. And I think Matt DiBenedetto, he could win this race. So all depends on where he starts, but definitely have a lot of confidence in what he could do here. Thad Moffitt, cool story. I don't know if he's related to Brett Moffitt. I didn't look into that, but I do know that he's Kyle Petty's nephew and that he's the King Petty's grandson. And he's going to be driving a 43 SP T truck, Rayam Brothers here. So he was a decent driver in ARCA. So, 3 races, top 5, top 10 in plate racing and in ARCA. So I think he's worth a look, especially, with the Petty background. I know they've been down a Cup, but I think that he might be something good. I don't think he's going to be like the next superstar that comes into here, but I think he's one. It sounds like he's just going to start out by running Daytona and see how it goes. But I think you might see this 43 truck more, or him get, if some of these other drivers struggle, get some of their timeshare rides. So I think he's going to be a force to reckon with eventually. Jason White, really like him too. He has a very, very good track record at plate races. 2 races at Daytona and Trucks so far. Finished both of them 15. Very cheap. Again, we just have to hope that, and 22 for speed in practice isn't bad for this Ram truck. And then we have Austin Hill. He's in a Spire truck. Spire was okay. It was a smaller team in the Cup Series. They had usually the 77 car. So I think that he wouldn't have come back to the Truck Series. He actually moved up to Xfinity if he didn't think that this truck was going to be decent for him. 8,800 is a good price. Again, pricing doesn't really matter, but his experience here, and this is one racetrack where equipment doesn't matter as much. So I think as long as everything, the 4 wheels stay on it and, 8 cylinders fire in it, I think he's got a really good chance here. And I'm hoping that he starts outside of the top 10 just with speed. Doesn't look like it was really fast in practice, but really doesn't mean much. He might have been focusing more on Xfinity stuff. So he's someone to definitely look at. Christian Eckes, Thor Sport Truck, he just really hasn't been good at plate tracks. Again, he was the timeshare guy last year, Grant Enfinger. I think Enfinger had more success than Eckes did in this truck now. And he actually was in a Kyle Busch truck and got kicked out of it. So I think he may have a decent season, but I'd really not, if I'm going to spend up, unless he like somehow qualifies in the 30s or something, then I'd play him. But I think he need to be 15th or worse for me to even consider him. Matt Crafton, he's won. He hasn't never won here. It's kind of haunted him on 21 races at the track. So I think he's due. Again, it all depends on where he qualifies. So I prefer Enfinger or Di Benedetto or Nemechek if I'm picking a guy that starts in the top 10. If he starts outside the top 10, I'd definitely consider him. Ty Majeski, he had a decent year for Thor Sports. This truck isn't necessarily in on points. One race at Daytona, he finished towards the back. I think he had some I think this was actually a Talladega race. He didn't race Daytona last year, but I think that his GPP play, I'm not as high on him as I am like some of the other trucks here. Ben Rhodes, definitely like him, won last year, defending champion. Again, it all depends on where he starts. I think I could put him in the same breath as like Nemechek and Di Benedetto and Enfinger. I like those three better. Maybe I'd like Rhodes better than Nemechek since he won last year. But again, sometimes winning Daytona is a little bit more luck than skill. But I don't think you can go wrong with any of those guys. Again, it all is going to depend on how they qualify. Jesse Little, a little bit of interest in him. I'm not trying to be pounding there, but he's one that we've played for many years in truck and in Xfinity. He's raced there. He's cheap. If he starts towards the back, he's pretty reliable. Same thing with Spencer Boyd. I really, really like Spencer Boyd and this Young Motorsports. It should get into Young Motorsports. It's they're a smaller team, but they do perform well. Spencer Boyd is very good at super speedways, and he gets the top truck here this year with Fogelman moving on to another team. So really, really looking for the season. I really, really think that he's a good play here. Solid play, especially unless he's like starting in like the top 15 or something, that I'd have to fade him. But I think 15 on back, I think he's a very, very solid player. Really like him. I'd actually maybe change that to a prime. Again, the prime guys are not core guys. These are just my initial thoughts based on starting positions and history and things like that. We're going to have a whole new sheet for you after qualifying's done. And Denny Bond, I'm not too high on him. So that's the whole field. Again, this is not accurate information, and TK and I are just going to have to try to figure out each week when we have qualifying so quick. We just might have to do kind of these quick breakdowns on how well they've done, like what's their current form, what's the track condition, how they look in practice and qualifying, any other little nuggets we can throw at you to help you make your lineups. But you're really going to have to wait till after qualifying to make the decisions to see who are the best plays. What we will do for you is, like I said, we'll have the full sheet for you. So just sign up at FSIDFS. You've got 2 free weeks that you can use it. So you can use it this week to get you all through the Daytona, and then whatever other week you want to use in February for the next couple of races. And we're here to help you out. So drop some comments below. We'll see what we can do to help you out. And hopefully it's a good race tonight and very exciting and profitable for all of us again. Thanks for watching on Mega Ruler 31. Again, drop comments below if you have any questions, or hit me up at Twitter at Mega Ruler 31. Love meeting and interacting with people there. We're here to help you. And until next time, good luck.